are doing a Q&A call, but it is a Q&A for you. Ask Dawn anything. So we put a solicitation out there for questions of things people wanted to know from you. And also in the 3 years that we've been doing this, we've never, ever done a Q&A in any form that hasn't brought at least one question like this. Do you get a lot of questions about your collar? We've every single Q&A has had a caller question. So let's start there because that seems to be the thing that is the most asked thing about you. So do you get asked a lot about your collar?
Well, a lot is relative, but I would say no. Um, it maybe gets noticed, but not questioned. And I would say even I'm not looking for it like other people's reactions ever,
Hmm.
really. So is there more than I even notice? Probably so. But it's not something that I even pay attention to all that much.
And as far as frequency goes, I would say someone says something about it a few times a year.
Yeah. And
Although there was one place when we were in Tennessee where it, for whatever reason, it got brought up and mentioned more there than anywhere else we've ever been. And I don't know if that was just luck or if it had something to do with where we were.
well, that being said, which color I'm wearing also plays into that
Sure.
because the beautiful red lace one that I wear
Hmm.
gets noticed all the time. And so there's compliments on that almost probably every time I wear it. Do they know what it is? I don't know. They don't ask, they just compliment it.
And also because I tend to be more the one who's keeping an eye on surroundings, where you tend to be more present, I notice more when people notice your collar and don't say anything.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's more tuned into that. And this just happened last weekend where we were walking down a sidewalk and I saw a hostess at a restaurant who was out on the sidewalk part of the cafe greeting people. Just basically, I saw her look at your eyes and I saw her gaze shift down about 8 to 10 inches and her eyes just went wide. So, I notice those things probably more than you do. But as far as people bringing it up, yeah, it's pretty infrequent.
Yeah.
Next question that someone wants to know, and we're starting off on kind of the easy ones to get the blood flowing here before we get into some of the deeper ones.
Okay.
What is your favorite state or country you've been to?
Hmm. Well, I can't say that I've traveled a lot, but that will change. We are going to definitely be traveling more around the United States in the next few years. Um, I would say it has to be Hawaii so far. I love the ocean and the beach. I love palm trees. Um, I love the vibe of Hawaii. We were on the Big Island only and got to tour around, drive around the whole thing. And so just to experience the different climates on such a small island was really cool. And it was where you proposed on the beach.
Yeah, there's some special memories.
Yeah. So far, I would say that because I have not been out of the country more than twice. And so Austria, eh. And then Dominican Republic, like, sure, but I don't need to go back.
Yeah. So this next question, I think, is more of a compliment than a question, but it was phrased as a question. Someone said, "Did you wear braces? Your teeth are so beautiful."
Thank you. Um, I did have braces, but it wasn't for crooked teeth. It was just a very slight overbite. So I guess I was blessed with very straight teeth. But thank you.
There's a movie quote there. Um, I'm going to butcher it, so I'm just going to skip it.
I have no idea where you would be going.
When you stopped people pleasing, were you afraid of judgment?
Hmm. Definitely there was fear. Um, and that I think is definitely quote unquote normal. Um, because you're shifting a pattern that, and anytime you're like shifting out of the way you've been, it can feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that fear is actually a sign that you're growing. So, yes, there can be that fear of judgment or perception of judgment. But again, like when I started recognizing that I was doing it, like I felt hurt inside by how I was showing up for myself. So I really leaned into the concept of I'm saying yes to myself so I can be more of myself for everyone else. And that was really, really helpful for me.
The other thing I would add to that is the reason that we people please is because we're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of being rejected. We're afraid of someone else's opinion. And so we're trying to shape and control how they feel by how we show up.
Yeah, very good point.
So I don't think you can undo people pleasing without fear of judgment and without fear of upsetting someone. That's a sign that you are coming out of people pleasing. It's a part of the process because you're coming to face with that discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely.
People pleasing is just the avoidance of that very thing.
Yeah. Hmm.
So the next one comes from someone who's new to submission. And she wants to know, as a new sub, what would be your biggest piece of advice for me?
Two words are coming to my mind, but they are they are the same. It's authenticity and embodiment. And so what I would say to that is really being true to yourself and your own experience and allowing that to be seen. But that only comes from continuously deepening more and more into the body,
Mm.
which is the path to authenticity. So it's all wrapped up into one. And for me, the way that the language started coming, um, feeling like alive and truth in my body was that authentic soul connection. And that's what has been able to be seen and witnessed by you and myself because of my submission and because of my willingness and desire to connect with it. And it's only there through the body, never the mind.
And I know this is Ask Dawn Anything, but from a dominance perspective, for a new submissive, what I would add to what Dawn just said is use your voice, speak up,
Hmm.
talk, stand up for yourself, for your needs, for your desires, and don't ever shut down your expression out of a fear of losing someone. Don't ever shut down your expression because you're afraid of upsetting a dominant partner. You have to speak up for yourself. You have to show yourself that respect and never protect him from the way he makes you feel. Because being a submissive does not give someone license to treat you poorly or to violate your boundaries.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful connection. It's like a triangle,
Mm-hmm. All three of those things.
which to me, your authenticity has to be expressed. So thank you for adding that in.
And so the next one then comes from a dominant
Hmm.
who wants to know, how do I get my submissive to be more submissive and obedient?
Hmm. Oh, I'm trying to summarize. all of what's circulating in me because there's so much, and I know you're gonna have more to say there because you've led me here. Um, for one, I guess the language being submissive is a little like, like it depends. Are you focusing on the performative doing because then you're only seeing her for what she's doing? If you're truly seeking authenticity in her soul, that is through your leadership and through your guiding her to more of herself, being that permission slip to express more, um, and bring all of herself to the relationship. I'm going to stop there. Please add because this will be very valuable from you.
If you want your submissive to be more submissive and more obedient, she will be to the same extent to which you are dominant, to the same extent to which you have the inner strength that you need to hold all of her. You don't get the kind of submission that I get to experience from Dawn by squashing someone. You get it by having them grant you authority in their life and saying, I could do anything I wanted with this, and I'm going to use it to set you free. I'm going to use it to make your life better. I'm going to use it to make you grow into being a better person. And in order to do that, we've got to overcome our own woundings as men. We have to overcome our own pain, our fear, our discomfort with her being anything other than what avoids pain for us. We have to stand face to face with our own pain and deal with our own shit. Because when we feel solid and strong in ourselves, she will be submissive and obedient to us because she can't help it. Because it'll be how she feels about you.
Thank you for that because now I want to share. I literally just said last night that every single day, I feel this like awe, this, it's admiration for you, it's reverence, it's feeling, knowing that my felt experience of you, which shows itself through the desire, and that desire is a big word there with multiple aspects, but what I get to feel because of who you are, because of where you led me, like it is incredible. The difference of where I used to be inside of our relationship, knowing I loved you, but being able to be here in the freedom and eh, also getting to be all of myself inside of our relationship is just unbelievable. Like if you would tell passed on, I'd be like, what are you talking about? I didn't know what I didn't know. And so thank you because this is amazing.
And that right there, for the men listening to this, that expression of reverence, like that is pure, it's authentic, and I can feel it. I know it's real. And this is why we go first. I'm going to go on just a little bit of a rant here before we get back to Ask Dawn Anything. But it is the realm of the masculine to initiate, to start, to go first, to take action, to move towards a goal, to move in a direction. We go first. We have to. There is no submissive without a dominant. We can be dominant without having anyone follow us because dominance is a character trait. Now, a woman can be surrendered. She can be practiced at letting go and at being present, but there is no submissive without a dominant to follow.
Right.
We have to go first. We are the initiator. And any anything else that happens up until the man takes the lead, takes charge, and starts moving forward and saying, this is what this relationship is going to be, how it's going to be, how it's going to go. And I'm going to take this in the direction that I see is right. Anything that happens before that is just playing games, period. But once you do that, the rewards are what we live and experience together.
Thank you for all of that.
Back to Ask Dawn Anything. I want to be submissive so badly, capitalized so. But I feel so much shame about even wanting this. Help. What advice would you offer to someone who wants to be submissive but feels so much shame?
The shame can be let go of. And it will come through doing the emotional healing work and facing it. And the more that you say yes to your authentic self and this desire that's pure inside of you, like desire is holy, that's what I've come to feel, is that follow that. Don't give up on it. And when you keep saying yes to yourself, that shame has to go away because you can't continue to hold the contradiction of letting your desire be big and the shame being big. The desire can, when you keep seeking it, overpower that shame and dissolve it.
And shame goes away when you find your self-love. And your self-love is just present. It's who you are. It's already in you. It's already present. Whatever is real for you and true about you will become real in your life to the extent that you come home to your authenticity, to the extent that you come home to who you are. And to come home, you have to go meet your inner child. You have to bring love to yourself. You have to bring acceptance to the parts of yourself, those very same parts that you feel shame about. You have to bring acceptance to them, bring love to yourself for the things that feel real and true to you. And the fact that you feel shame about something is usually a sign that there's some truth there that you're avoiding, suppressing, or hiding.
And for me, like in that, like this is called shadow work. This is like something, this desire that you're suppressing, that you have shame about, you're keeping it down, hidden. And in my experience, the more that I've let those out, the more that I've actually connected to me for real. Because those are me. I just didn't know it. They were so hidden in my experience. So, yeah, it needs to be seen and witnessed and accepted by you.
Next question, and I think this is going to have a couple of um, different tendrils
Okay.
to go down. But this is a submissive who asks, does Sir ever repeat decisions that hurt you despite you sharing the impact that it has on you?
No. No. I can't like there's been nothing. And oh my gosh, it's hard for me to even put myself in what I would do if you did that because like that's so far out of the way you have cultivated the love and devotion in our relationship.
Thank you. I think the important part is to this question is to address what is the you that you're talking about?
Very valid.
Because have I ever done things or repeatedly exposed you to things that were hurtful to the you that is really your ego? that were hurtful to the you that is your fear, your resistance, um, your old belief systems that are no longer serving you? Have I ever done things that have been repeatedly hurtful to that shadow or that ego part of yourself?
Confronting. I'm going to call it confronting. Yes.
And necessarily so.
Yes. So that is a very important clarification because in in my experience of that, I don't feel that as hurtful. I feel that as confronting, but um uncomfortable. So, words play into this on what we're talking about and how we express that, but um when we have built this foundation of authenticity and that's what we desire, I have said yes over and over to receiving that confronting uncomfortableness. Did I just make a new word again?
Sure. We'll put it in the dictionary.
And had to sit in the discomfort because once again, when we get uncomfortable, for me it's been a sign that I'm expanding, and the real me is actually able to be seen, and the ego me is actually getting to be dissolved.
So a couple things. First of all, for our newer listeners, every time that we do a Q&A, Dawn ends up making up some new word. And this goes back a long, long time in our 15 years together. So we call this the Donctionary, which is a dictionary of words that Dawn has made up. And so uncomfortableness will go into the Donctionary alongside of all of the other fun ones.
Clip it.
Clip it.
That's where it started.
It did. Yes, the when you make a snippet and a clip together, it's a clip it. So first and foremost, that's the Donctionary. And if you hear Dawn make up any words on any of our podcasts, please let us know with an Instagram direct message or an email or a comment in YouTube, and we will add them to the Donctionary.
I'm really good at it.
You are. It's a skill. Secondly, you have to be familiar with the concept of the difference between the ego self and the authentic self in order for what I'm bringing up here to make any sense. There, that there's a whole bunch of work that you can do in uncovering this. I would recommend starting with the book The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. If what we're saying here doesn't make any sense at all, like what do you mean the ego self and the authentic self? That's a great place to start. And the bigger point in this, and in me bringing this piece of it to the conversation, is that if things are being, in your words, confronting to you, it does not mean that it's not important. The fact that you are uncomfortable oftentimes has shown me exactly where you need to be challenged so that you can get behind the discomfort to whatever the truth is that's stuffed and being hidden with that discomfort. And if you are in a place of identification with the ego self, then it might feel like I was being hurtful to you.
Yeah, I've been there.
But when you have disconnected from that ego self and you're able to see that the part of you that's being challenged is really just old beliefs that may or may not continue to suit you in the present and in your authentic expression, then you're able to bring curiosity to it. So this question, which again was, does Sir ever repeat decisions that hurt you despite you sharing the impact it has on you? It You have to look at that question from the perspective of, is he bringing these things with consciousness? Is he confronting you in an attempt to bring you closer to your authentic expression? If so, and that is uncomfortable and it sucks, it's gonna suck. It's going to hurt. And especially if you're new at this kind of work, it's going to feel like you're being attacked. But if this is being brought out of love and out of a desire to help you expand and grow, then that hurt may be actually helpful or important to you. Now, if the things that he's doing are out of an unconscious version of dominance, meaning he's trying to push you down, suppress you, control you, not listen to your boundaries, respect them, not respect your limits, those kinds of things, where it's a taking energy from him rather than a giving energy from him, then that's a very different thing. That is the kind of person you probably, at the very least, you need to be expressing the hell out of yourself with how that feels if you're even going to stay around that person. Because it's the expression of how that is felt and received in your body, that unconscious kind of hurt. The only way that that ever gets better is by speaking up, using your voice, like we shared earlier.
And maybe getting out of it.
Maybe. Or at least separating yourself from it while you sort out why that's happening. Because protect yourself, be safe. We'll come back around to something else on that topic with one of these other questions. So we have two questions here that are kind of the same. I'm going to ask both of them because they ask this from a couple different perspectives. And these both kind of concern topping from the bottom.
Okay.
So the first one asks, how do you express to your dom you want to do something new in bed when he sees that as bossy? And the second question is, how do I introduce an idea, suggestion, or request without topping from the bottom?
Well, expression, like we were just talking about, is very important. The way that we live in this dominance and submission isn't separate from the feminine essence of me as my primary and you in your masculine. And so part of the feminine has to be expression and speaking up. And in our relationship, it is never taken as being bossy. And so you can't control how someone else receives it, but there has to be expression. And the whole idea of topping from the bottom, expressing is not that. Like the feminine gets to be the invitation. We get to bring our love and eros and sex and all of this playfulness to the relationship. And so there's a big difference in saying, do it this way versus, I would love to experience this. I would love to feel more of this. I would love to try something new and really bring that playful curiosity. Like, I know you love hearing what I want more of. And that's another word, more. Like we get to live in this expansive more as we deepen into our feminine. And that for me has happened because of my submission.
You mentioned desire earlier, and I think that's an important part of this conversation too about topping from the bottom, because your desires, as long as they're detached from outcome, like control of outcomes, your desires are just saying, this would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I would enjoy this. If we did this, I would have a great time. This might really turn me on. You bringing your desires is a good thing. And if you aren't telling me I have to do that now or in this timeline, or even bringing the energy of expectation to it, it's just an expression of a desire. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's an important note there because I've had to work through my own ability to express my desires without having to have them met immediately or having to have my way, and really just live in the like I said before, playful curiosity. Like, this sounds fun. I want to experience this. And not having to have it right now, even detaching from the timeline of when you might get it. And it's only brought more fun, more expansion for the both of us, more pleasure in all sorts of ways in the bedroom, outside of the bedroom.
So for the person asking the question here, I would point them to, for their own inquiry, their own inner inquiry, are the things I'm asking for, am I bringing any energy of demand or expectation with this desire? And if so, can I let go of that and let this be something that I'm floating out there and really giving to him as an option that he can take or not? Or is this something that I'm saying that I want it and I'm expecting he's going to fulfill this, or I'm going to be disappointed, upset, angry, whatever with him? So for the person asking the question, that's the inner inquiry into this. If you're doing those things honestly, like if you can really go deep into your own, like feel into this and say, yeah, I'm not attached to this, I'm just sharing it. And then he is receiving it as a command or as an expectation, that's not up to you. That's on him. That is on him if he is hearing expectation where there is none. And that's his work. That's what, like, that's where being a dominant means that we have to recognize where fear, where our walls go up, because that's a wall. It's an emotional wall. And it's usually protecting pain that that man has felt out of what happens if he doesn't meet the expectations of women. Probably going back to his mother or very early relationships with women. So if it feels as though unmet desires and unmet expectations are going to cause problems in his life, they're going to make things worse for him, they're going to make her upset, whatever it might be, this can be his wounding. This was my wounding to essentially hear her say, this would be fun, and me react as though I'm a piece of shit because I'm not already doing it. Or she's asking for something that I don't have time to give because I'm too busy. My life is full. I don't have any more energy for it, or whatever. I make it about me when it's not about me at all. It's her saying what she would want. So this is the dominance work. Your work is letting go of the expectation and being willing to share that desire. Because what kind of a woman, for the guys, what kind of a woman are you going to have if she doesn't want anything? That's where you end up with a doormat, with somebody who's like, okay, I don't want anything, just tell me what to do. Okay, yes, sir, I'll do it. Okay, yep. Like, you don't want a woman who doesn't have any desire.
Well, and yes, the whole doormat thing is where what I also wanted to share, because there are plenty of the types of dominant and submissive relationships out there that are based in a he's in charge and she can't say anything. And you matter. Your life experience matters. And if you are if you find yourself in this sort of relationship where there's no room for you to express and to speak up, and you're starting to feel like you're taken advantage of or a doormat and you're not being received, like, but you have this desire to like express, like, that is you. That is you seeking something more than you're receiving. And that is a natural part of life, to seek more of whatever you want to experience. And again, that desire is holy. And so the only person that can really, really, that first needs to choose yourself is you. And so I'm not here to tell you your relationship is one way or another. But I will say you matter. You're worthy of what you want to experience in a relationship. And speak up for it.
Seems to be the caller seems to be the most common question, but the necessity of the submissive to use her voice and speak up and share what she thinks, share what she feels, share where she's at seems to be the most common answer we need to give.
Well, and it's because of what dominance and submission seems to have been portrayed as. Like, I can't speak a whole lot to that because of my lack of um, uh, inquiry even into this world before you brought it to me. But that has definitely been a common theme and a misconception of the truth of what these relationships can be and be built in.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Next question. I love the southern flair to this question. What are your most successful areas in y'all's dynamic?
Oh, I like all of it. Like, oh man, everything that we've been speaking about, me, like my authenticity, my expression, the truth of who I am being brought to the surface and being seen and being received by you, and your innate desire to become more of yourself and embrace, I'm going to say it simply this way, more dominance, like as a whole, out of all of the threads at what that means. And really feeling like this, how good can this get? How much fun can we have? How much pleasure and passion and desire can we feel and experience on a daily basis? That's what we live. And knowing where I was, very black and white, very, people call it vanilla. I like vanilla ice cream, so like whatever. But non-connected to the depth of my own pleasure, my own turn-ons, and to be where I am now and experience the depth of my own sexuality is like, wow. So all of that wrapped up into all of our lives because of how you've created everything. I don't know. I just love you.
I want to answer this question too because the the thing that I see as being the most successful in our dynamic is the way that we have been able to live inside of a power exchange relationship that has gotten deeper, it's gotten more intense. The the actual day-to-day exchange of power, meaning you surrendering, submitting, obeying me taking the lead, taking charge, taking control, being in command, has only gotten better and stronger and more intense over the last 5+ years. And the way that we've been able to do that in a way that has brought us so much more in deep union and connection with each other, where there is tremendous amounts of love and intimacy and closeness in this relationship, while at the same time there's tremendous amounts of passion and pleasure. And we've cracked the fucking code of of what has been my passionate inquiry into life, which is how do we have relationships where we have a long-term relationship where you get to have the best, most intense, passionate sex with the person you love the most, where intimacy and desire are not mutually exclusive, where they exist in the same relationship. And this dynamic has cracked that code. That's what's made it the most successful. And the evidence of it is what she's talking about. The woman you see, this vibrant, articulate, intuitive, erotically expressive specimen of a beautiful human being that you get to witness is not the same person that I asked to be my submissive in November of 2018. It's not the same, like, it's the same body, but the soul is expressed now through her submission. And because I have led this relationship in a way that has taken, as I said earlier, that authority that you've given me and used it to stop you from hurting yourself and to bring you into a bigger expression of who you are. And that that's what's the most successful to me, is what is evidenced in how special you are to me and how obvious it is to everyone who always wants to know and hear everything about you.
Podcast is over. We need to go. That's so fun. Just kidding. Thank you for that. I love how I express myself and then you add in so much like precise clarity and expand on everything I say, like the word complementary opposites. But yeah, I love how you just can do that for me.
Next question. This is from a woman who asks, where is your masculine side, or where does it show up?
Mm. So I'm gonna let you be the um, explainer of what I'm speaking to a little bit more. So please do that. But my speaking up, my expression is my masculine giving to you with the love, the adoration, the worship, the all of the emotional expression, along with discernment of deciding who's worthy of and like getting that as well. Where is it safe to bring it to? And so you can't have one without the other in knowing where that feels good to bring, along with speaking up in other areas of setting boundaries, like saying yes and no to doing other things outside of the relationship as well. So I guess there is an element saying that in like my own protection used in a beautiful conscious way versus an unconscious walls up kind of way. And that's the wounding aspect that I've had to work out of.
And the way that I see this in you is, let's use a couple descriptors of what the masculine is and how it's shifted in you. Because the masculine energy is the doing energy. There's one way that expresses itself. So people hear that and they say, so if I'm in my feminine, I don't do anything. That's the first question that a lot of women ask when they hear us say that.
Yeah, and that has obviously been a big shift in me because of my wounding, because of the way that I had put my life together in a very unconscious way. I I lived in my masculine, but I didn't thrive there. And so as I've released the pains of why I was showing up in the world that way by going through a lot of emotional work, I lived in the guise of like, I have to do all of these things in order to feel okay. And now I'm I'm doing things. Like I cook, I clean, I work out. It's still a doing.
You do these
I
podcasts.
do these podcasts. I you know, but it's a very different felt energy because it's me expressing,
Mhm.
even in the cleaning, even in the workouts. It's all in service to not just you and our relationship, but to the betterment of me and you, and therefore us together. It's like my desire to make your life better is still there, just like it always has been. But the energy is love in my doing. And that is the felt different in the experience for me. It doesn't feel exhausting. It doesn't feel draining. It feels life-giving.
So I'm going to put some precision to that now.
Thank you.
The when you were, and when I say you, I mean you may be the one asking this question, but anyone listening to this, man or woman, if you were living in a masculine expression, I wish people would stop using in my masculine, in my feminine, because it's too short-sighted. It misses the point. I use the words masculine expression, which means your masculine energy is in a doing first framework, and you're doing things to get something back. I call it doing to get energy. So the when a feminine woman is in a doing to get energy, she's in a masculine expression, but it's inverted. And that's when it's going to feel draining. It's when it's going to feel like she's burned out and exhausted and all of these things. She can do it. She can do it really damn well, but it's not going to feel good. So for a woman who is a feminine core being, to be in a feminine expression, the doing comes from the heart, and it comes as a response to what you've received, because you receive to give rather than doing to get. So you are filled up first, you receive first, you use your discernment, your masculine boundaries, walls. Like sometimes those boundaries need to be really firm boundaries. They aren't walls that are impenetrable, but they're very solid lines that you will not allow to be crossed, because if something crosses those, what you're receiving doesn't feel good, and it puts you into having to do things to protect yourself. So a feminine expression means you are protecting yourself, or you are receiving protection from your partner, from God, from whatever your own boundary setting, whatever that is, so that you feel safe to relax. And then everything around you can fill you up, and you can give from an expression of what it feels like to be in the life that you're living. So it's not that you're doing from your heart, you're doing from a place of fullness rather than from trying to get something. It's just an expression of how you feel in response to what you have allowed in your field. And that's the difference.
Thank you for that.
So the next couple of questions, we're not actually going to answer maybe all of them specifically, but they do point at some other conversation we can have. And these are also questions we always get from people when we put these Q&As out there, where people want to know about what kinks do we do, and like what is the private side of your dynamic like. So someone asked, does Dawn give up bathroom control? Does she have to ask to go?
No. Um, by the way, like, I'm flattered that anyone wants to know about my sex and my kinks and all of that, but that's just not what we're here to help people understand more of. But yes, those are fun and part of our lives as well. But I feel like what that question gets at, and is maybe how much do you micromanage my life? And that word doesn't do either one of us well, um, because it's not like there is a element of structure and order that the dominant has to give, but too much rigidity and too much command obey is for me, wouldn't help me thrive in my own fullness, in my own feminine expression. And so I believe like the way you have brought all of this forward from the very beginning has been so beautiful, with so much patience and compassion to walk the line of where is the structure and the order necessary, and leaning into the pieces that will help bring out more of me. And I'm sorry, but telling me when I can and can't go to the bathroom isn't really about me. It's about what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And you don't see me as the doing. That'd be seeing me as my masculine. That's what it kind of would feel like.
And that's where a lot of doms put their submissives into the masculine by ordering them to do things a certain way, making them do things to get rewards, making them do things to avoid punishments. And they sometimes inadvertently, or just with no awareness of what they're doing, they're putting their submissives into the role of the masculine, which puts, like, it takes the whole dynamic sideways.
Yeah, and like because again, going back to the like version of dominance and submission that isn't actually built in bringing out more of who each person is. It's built in what ways can I control you? And by all means, there can be kinks around the control, but it's not about making the submissive smaller, a doormat. It's really about helping her flourish. And in my experience, you reflected the truth of who I was because I couldn't see it for myself. And that's how you've helped me thrive and feel like, oh my gosh, I love who I am now.
So, said a little different way, what I've done, rather than look at your life and think, where can I do dommy things to control you because I'm supposed to do dommy things because you're a sub,
Yeah.
I've looked at the whole of who you are, the whole of your person, with a desire to see you flourish. And then I've used control not to do things like you have to ask permission to go to the bathroom, but to say, you are not going to beat yourself up. And I'm going to help you get to the root of why you beat yourself up and why you're so hard on yourself. That's a really big difference. The women who are listening to this, let me know how that difference feels to you. Leave us a comment. Share with us. How does that difference feel? Controlling just for the sake of control, or being seen so deeply and then using that control to help shift your reality to something that's better and more authentic and more free.
And I believe that innately in us as women, if we can actually tune into this, is we know the difference between controlling in a helpful way.
Containment.
Yep, containment, setting some structure and order for us so we don't have to for ourselves, so we can start to like learn how to let go. We know the difference between that and between that controlling just to control, which feels domineering, it feels arrogant, it can like feels like the guy's an asshole, that he doesn't have a heart. And so if he can't bring you your heart, like you can feel that. So if you feel that difference and you're not getting that need met, again, back to what I said before, you're worthy of feeling like your needs are being met, that you're loved and cared for in this dynamic. And that's what we speak to.
Well said. So this next question is one that we're not going to answer, and I'm going to share why. The next question says, are you put into bondage, blindfolds, gags, etc.?
Again, I'm flattered that you want to know all about it. I mean, I guess.
Well, one of the things in our contract is that we operate under my discernment when it comes to privacy and what we do and don't share. And even though we've put ourselves out there as public figures for people to learn from our experience, we do so in a way that's meant to show how dominant submissive dynamics can bring love and relationship closer together. And when we're asked questions like this, we understand why. Like, we get why you want to know. There's lots of reasons why you might want to know. And I'm sure plenty of them are that she's fucking beautiful and you'd love to know what she does in the bedroom. But we maintain the right to have a private life, even as people who put ourselves out as public figures and share this side of our life. And so while I respect the question, we're not going to answer. Thank you for asking. The last one, I want to end on this one because we released an episode, I believe it was episode number 27, where we talked about trust. And someone wanted to know, what are some things Andrew had to work on to gain your trust?
Gosh, I have to think about this one because I don't remember specifics the same as what I used to. But the beautiful thing is that when you brought this forward, we were already together for 10 years. And
Mhm.
so there was a certain amount of like physical safety, yep, completely there. Um, I had a good understanding of who you are and the man that you were, even if we weren't showing up as the people that we are today. And so, how was the question worded?
What are some things Andrew had to work on to
Had
gain
to
your
work
trust?
to gain my trust. Honestly, that's not something that I feel like I can specifically speak to because had this, we both had this desire to be more of who we are. And I just trusted your desire in that. And I just trusted your own growing in your own consciousness and ability to see yourself and to see truth and to see the truth in me and bring it forward. And so I feel like a lot of this for me was really recognizing that I had to really lean into what is trust for myself and learn how to trust myself because I was the one who self abandoned and didn't ever operate with healthy boundaries and actually understand how to use discernment on who to let into my life and who to not. And so like you've been this beautiful, I think probably very unique soul that has only guided me home. So maybe I'm not remembering something that you can bring forward because you just remember a lot more than I do now.
There's one thing that I know in myself, that this doesn't just come to dominance and submission, but it has certainly played out here, that has been helpful for you in being able to trust me when I screw up.
Oh,
Because I do screw up. I do make mistakes. I am not perfect. I, yeah, I'm not a perfect man just because I'm here on a podcast talking about what it means to be a dominant. Just because I make my living helping men in this, it doesn't mean that I'm perfect at it. But the thing that I know has helped you, because we've talked plenty about this, be able to trust me, is that when I make a mistake, I take ownership of it.
yeah.
I see it. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to admit when I've made the mistake. And then I go to work on doing it differently and on improving myself so that I
Yes.
don't continue to repeat the same mistake.
Yeah. And I had always seen that in you. Um, but I also witnessed that ownership of all of life it, like, I saw you without me ever having to express, I need more of that from you. I saw the way that you constantly try to take ownership of your life and look for the ways that you can be better. Like, that has just been a part of you. And when you found them, no matter how big or how small, you respond immediately. And so, yes, that has helped me build the trust, but I've never had to ask for it. Like, it's really just me speaking up in my own experience of you. And I guess trust that you'll receive me, because that was one area where you did have to lean into as we started understanding more of this, like, emotional stuff. So
Mhm.
I did have to, I, don't, I say trust to receive me, but I'd never had a fear that you were running away or that you were going to hurt me or yell at me or like whatever. It was more saying this out loud. Now I see myself in a different way of still feeling like I didn't want to upset you. And so trusting that you wouldn't get upset. But again, that wasn't my responsibility.
Well, and my responsibility in that was to notice when I would get upset, when I
Mhm,
would get defensive, when I would start justifying or rationalizing myself in response to your expression,
mhm.
recognizing, oh, this not only feels gross to me, she's feeling very unheard, unseen, uncared for by the way that I'm reacting to her. Okay, this is about me. I can listen to her without reacting. Why am I reacting? And then be willing to do the work on myself. Again, being able and willing to see myself and take ownership and responsibility for what part of this is mine without taking the blame or blaming myself for it not already being perfect.
Yeah. And I feel like earlier on, once that was brought to our awareness, we both just kind of were like, yeah, we're in this radical responsibility together.
100%.
And that just has made us who we are today.
So if this episode brought up other questions for you, if you'd have questions you'd like to hear one of us answer on a future episode, please, you can email us through our website at infinitedevotion.com. You can leave a comment on the YouTube version of this podcast, or you can reach out to us through Instagram. We are at _infinite devotion. But we hope this has been helpful and valuable to you. And if there are any other ways that we can support you, please always reach out to us. We're here for you. That's what we do. And it's our honor and privilege to be able to be here sharing this love with all of you. And I hope that it helps you live a better life for yourself.
Yes. And I just want to share that even just having you ask questions and asking for our perspective, it just helps me feel connected to your hearts and your desire for a better life in such a rewarding way. Um, so I truly appreciate even just your willingness to bring us questions and to hear what we have to share.
Thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you.